Good evening, Foxes fans, and welcome to Blue Tinted Glasses. It is tragically a very bad time to be a Leicester City Football Club fan, but thank you for joining us on this Tuesday night. This is the Match Analysis Show, and I am joined by our favourite Dane. It's Andreas, LCFC Duck. Good day, Duck. How are you doing on this fine Tuesday evening?
Thank you. I'm doing fine. I think all things considered, right? Leicester haven't been the most. I don't want to say recently because we did have a good game against Tottenham, but they were also horrible. It's been a roller coaster recently following Leicester. While we didn't get any signings in, I'm happy to see that so many outgoings on loan. I think it's crucial that I think for a few years we've been too slow at giving our up and coming prospects some first team football. So I'm very happy for the Will Aldous loan. I think that's massive, to be honest. But doesn't really change that the situation we're in currently is dire, and this match we're about to look into, I only got to watch the first 45 minutes, but that was 45 minutes more than I needed to see from Leicester that weekend. Absolutely shocking.
Exactly. Well, thank you for everyone that's joining. This is going to be a painful one. This is probably, I think this is the worst performance we've had in many years. I think this is even a worse performance than in 2022 when Bournemouth beat us at the King Power. But look, we're going to try and understand how that happened. I think this was worse than that, and we'll come to that in a moment. We're just going to read through some comments. Dallas Foxes with the TLDR analysis. We stink. Analysis complete.
That's good analysis.
Steve, evening. Can I just say Luke's rant yesterday was one of the best things I've seen on YouTube. Just wish the board had his passion. Luke, you are a legend. Yeah, let me tell you, he is a fun guy to be around. He has some very fun takes. So he was fuming, as you can imagine. Evening, Costa. I hope you're good. And Tony, yes. Do you know what? I have to agree with that. This is a question I think doesn't get asked enough, which is that where is the money going? Because we don't spend it. And a lot of people will say that it goes on wages. But even if you take that into account, there's still a massive shortfall. So I'm very interested to see where that money is. I literally don't think that gets talked about at the moment enough. Evening, everyone from Kuhnau and Duck. Please don't knock back Yannick today. Well, Yannick's going to have his hard thing.
Do not worry. We dropped a stinker.
Evening, Peter. Evening, Peaches. Flying high as always. And Craig. Yes, unfortunately, it's got one of those things. We've got one of the few worst performances this season. But I think this transcends seasons, sadly. So let's get on with it, everyone. Let's take a look at the bloodbath. Duck you've got to be a masochist to see this. Do you know what? This is one of those things that when I was watching back and do the analysis, the amount of times I just burst out in laughter was insane. You just had to laugh. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, respect to Everton. They won 4-0. And if there are any Toffees fans watching, congratulations. But it was so easy for them. So easy for them. Yes, Ethan, we are going to talk about the players' body language a little bit in this one. That's something that I picked up on too. So let's look at the game. And it's just pure domination. 4-0 to Everton. 7 big chances. But I think what we're not even talking about is the fact that not only did we get dominated, but we actually offered absolutely nothing. I have got a little section called chances, and I had to put it with the air quotes because we basically created nothing. We looked toothless. We looked that they could score anytime. Do you know what? I actually think this score was flattering on us. They actually had some very easy chances they could have scored, as the 7 big chances showed. And it was just domination from literally the first second till the last, which is another reason why I think it was just such a poor performance. Let's look at the lineup. So we did mention this in the match preview that we felt that Everton could have a slightly stronger team than the one that we played earlier in the season. But as it happened, we were going into this match with some optimism. Dominic Calvert-Lewin was out and the unproven Better was playing up top. So we felt confident there. That aged like milk. And they also had Mangala was out for the rest of the season. So in came Doucouré. And again, that aged like milk, thinking that might make a difference. Otherwise, you can see that it being David Moyes, he's gone for a very physical back four. And I think that's one of the big things that we miss compared to Everton. As for our lineup, well, look, we were delighted to see the return of probably the one shining light this season. That said, I've got to say he had a bit of a stinker. I don't think he was match fit, to be fair. But we were still on paper. We were thinking Everton have got some injuries. We've got our talisman back. And we'd come off a win. Rude kept pretty much the same team other than changing the keeper. And I think that Bobby Reid deserved his place in the team. I think given that we won, probably Ayew. I mean, look, I don't think Ayew should be in the team, but it is what it is. So we're going to go there. So that's how we started up and, how would things go? Well, on tonight's show, we're going to talk about 3 things. We're going to talk about backing out of challenges, which was a common thing that we saw. We're going to talk about why a high line with no pace does not work. And we're going to talk about why we just have no good defensive options. And if you think there's anything positive to talk about, you'd be wrong. Because as Tommy K's put here, Everton a dross, and you are bang in trouble. I think we've known that for a while, Tommy. But I mean, this was the game that I think it is definitely one of those games that extinguishes hope, just to see how bad we are. Now, the thing that Ruud decided to do in this game that I have not really seen him do in too many other games this season is he decided to go for this when we're in possession. So, of course, this we know about. We do this in most games. We played a 3-2-4-1, a little bit like we did under Enzo, with Justin as the kind of auxiliary winger. But the big thing is look how high the back line was stepping up, right? So we're playing a high line and trying to compress the game. And you can see that was a fact because here are the average positions and you can see just how high players were moving up. You can actually see how deep Vardy was dropping to be kind of come a false nine, which is interesting. We can talk about that in a moment. Maybe results in our ineffectiveness up top. But, well, I was going to say, Duck, if I was to show you that, what is the weakness with playing a high line?
All the space that's left open behind.
Yeah, I sort of gave you the spoilers there, but of course you would have said the same thing anyway. It's this deadly H block, right? So we've seen it before. We've played other teams that have high lines. I think Aston Villa is a really good example, but they're far from the only ones. And if you try and play the high line, there's obviously going to be space at the back and space in behind. In fact, we actually would beat Spurs because Spurs oftentimes only had 2 men back, and it meant if we could win the ball, especially high up the field, there were chances in to get behind. So that's the risk that you play. But the idea is that you're going to be able to dominate the game, move forward, and try and play the game in the other person's half, and therefore make it less of a problem. Of course, that worked very well for us in the Championship. This, of course, is the Premier League, not the Championship. And the issue is that last time around we came up against Sean Dyche, but David Moyes is an extremely experienced manager, won a European trophy, very well done. And this is what Luke mentioned in the pre-match review, and he said, look, Moyes, he's got a compact defence, he's got a physical and attritional approach if needed. We knew that coming into this game, that they could outbattle us. We knew that they'd have a threat on the break. We know that he's happy to let the opposition have the ball if we need him to, right? They make it hard for the opposition to shoot from geared areas, so they force you into the wide areas where you can't really do much, and he likes to spring breaks from a mid-block. So you knew what was coming. It's not like, if us armchair analysts can figure it out, it's not like, you know, we couldn't do it. And Craig, your comment is going to be coming true very soon. So David Moyes, he obviously looked at it as Everton team, and he thought, okay, let's look at this Leicester team. What are the weaknesses that Leicester have? And I've pointed this out in a few games ago. Actually, Spurs were trying to target us with crosses, the higher ball. And this is something that, to be honest with you, shocks me, given that our centre-backs, I'm not sure, right? It's not like we have Lisandro Martinez, unfortunately, when he's got an injury at the back, right? Our defenders are pretty reasonable. Yannick Vestergaard, I would say, is amongst one of the tallest centre-backs in the Premier League, because most people are not 6'6". But you can see that in terms of aerials won, both Wout Faes and Yannick Vestergaard do not win many headers, and that is an issue, right? A big issue if you've got an opposing coach that can exploit it. And unfortunately, if I had to sneak preview this game, it was this as a movie. It was Dumb and Dumber. Both these guys got atrocious ratings. Vestergaard got the worst rating when we did them, but to be honest with you, they were just as bad as one another, although you could argue that maybe playing with one another makes them bad because they're having to compensate for the other's weaknesses, and they've both got massive weaknesses that can be exploited. So David Moyes was like, do you know what? Very simple. If these lads are bad in the air and there's going to be space behind them, we're just going to go long. Let's see how they deal with that. And starting with Yannick, coming into this season, I felt he definitely deserved a chance in the team. He'd been excellent in the Championship. His distribution on the ball is good. But we know from his time at Southampton that he is questionable, to say it lightly, in the Premier League. And you have to say that Brendan Rodgers figured it out years ago that he does not operate well in a high line. But that's what Ruud decided to go for. So coming to the first thing is backing out of challenges, which is something that I think he did a lot. And look, Yannick's lack of pace, I think, is not something that he can really do much about, right? If someone's literally faster than you, you're not like, if I get into a race with Usain Bolt and I lose, you can't have a go at me, right? I don't have those genetics. But the thing is if there's a ball that comes in the air and I'm the tallest guy on the pitch and I don't even go for a header, that is inexcusable. And that's unfortunately something that he has been accused of many times. I'm actually interested. You can answer me in a second if he does that for the Danish team, because he definitely did it for Southampton, does it for us. So this is literally 2 seconds into the game, kickoff, back to Jordan Pickford. He hoofs it long. And here we go. Physical approach. You can see there's only 2 Everton men here. We're well covered. We've got Soumare. He's up against Beto. And you've also got Vestergaard in behind. I actually have to say that Soumare also deserves pelters as well. Because he, if this was in DD, I think he wins it, or at least puts a better challenge in. So yeah, keep an eye also on Vestergaard. That's where the ball is. So it kind of breaks. Samari's caught there. And then you see this is sort of the lack of pace and physicality. So they win it. They're 2-on-1 there. He gets through. Now here as well, if you look at this angle, I feel that either of these guys could have done a better effort than they did, especially this early in the game. It comes down to who wants it the most. Neither of them wants it the most. And I couldn't believe it, Andreas. It's almost like I know plenty of people that didn't even see this goal because the game had started. It's unbelievable start to the game. It says 17 seconds, but they actually scored after 6. But again, just looking it back on the replay, right? It says 1-on-1. So Samari really should be winning that. But here you can see the angle as well. And I'm going to have some more clips of it here, right? But yeah, if you look at this position, I feel from here, he's the pace. I don't think like his positioning is too great because he's on his back foot. Here again, he's just basically he ducks out. I haven't really got like a really good still to do it, but it was just noticeable that there was like a kind of ricochet. And he could have stuck his head in, he could have stuck a foot in, he could have done anything. He didn't do anything. He just completely backs out of it. And yeah, it's too easy. Same with Fast. They're just watching, and that was 1-0. So I have to ask you that. Is that something that you see at the Danish national team?
That particular error, I don't want to say so, right? It's something I've said on the show many times before as well. To try and hide his pace, he sometimes makes some 50-50s or questionable decisions to win a challenge early or get ahead of the what could have become an upcoming sprint bet, right? Because he wants to hide his weakness as much as possible. This year was different bad decision making. Because, and if I recall correctly, it does happen for one of the goals where he does this, tries to approach the ball before he even gets to the sprint battle because he knows he's going to lose it there. And then it looks even worse when it then gets to the sprint battle and he starts 5 foot behind. But this one was just weird decision making that I haven't seen from him before. It's just very, very weird. And it kind of seemed like the players weren't turned on from the first second because about Fast as well, take some time to realize, wait, there's a threat here. And both of these defenders, probably weren't ready for the game to be kicked off, it seemed.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing is this is literally the first challenge in the game and they haven't won it. And as you say, it's our players switched on. They're not. I mean, that's such an obvious thing. They're just going to kick it long at you first time. And, you didn't. It's, really, really awful there. Yeah, Daniel, of course, getting David Moyes was a brilliant appointment for you. He knows the club well. Unsurprising that he's turned you around. He's an underrated manager. So let's talk about the second one. If that was dumb, or dumber, I don't know. This is the opposite one. So let's take a look at Fast. So again, just 5 minutes later, and we're going to talk about Leicester's weakness, the long ball again. So here you've got Tarkowski on the ball, and I've also circled Bilal. Bilal isn't quite as far forward, but he's probably noticed he's going to get the ball, so he's going to push him to go a bit forward and close him down. So perhaps you could say that maybe Bilal should have been further up, but at the moment he's been tasked with, blocking the passing lane here into Idrissa Gueye. So he goes forward, but Tarkowski's got enough time to play the ball. And again, I mean, there's nothing advanced about this. There's nothing sophisticated. This is not incredible football. This is not Brazil from 1970s. Nothing against Everton or David Moyes. It's a great tactic. It worked. Just play the ball thing. And again, look there where it bounces. You can see the positioning of the team. And look, here again, you can see that is immediately with one ball, that is one player and one of our centre-backs completely taken out of the game. That's how easy it is to isolate him in the high line. So he's through. Circle Wout Faes, who also was pretty poor, can't get a challenge in, and boom, super easy, 2-0. Again, looking at positioning here, maybe you could criticize JJ. He is goal side of Ilman and DI, but they're not actually operating. You can see he's actually playing him on side, so actually if he'd have stepped up, perhaps they could have played him off. That is one trick with the high line. That's how you can get around it. It takes a lot of guts, but if you all step up, you can play people off, and if you're really good and elite with your positioning, you can get around it. But when it goes wrong is when you do this. When you play a player in, you cut them out because you haven't got the pace or the physicality, and you get dominated like this, and it's too easy to put it in the back of the net. So it's just too easy. It's just absolutely awful. And again, actually, this is not the ball that Tarkowski goes for, but I think this is just as worrying that there's actually an even easier ball that he could play through. And unfortunately, we're going to see this for the third goal. In the end, he actually goes more for the outside than the higher one round the corner. And again, he's got there. And this is the positioning. You can see that there's just look at that massive gap. That's the H block that we were talking about earlier. And in the Premier League, maybe in a championship, you'll get away with that, but not in the Premier League. And it's just scary that Beto, who is considered not to be particularly good by the Everton fans, I think the jury's out of them, probably had his best game for them. And look at that. Good finish, to be fair, stuck it in. And yeah, speaking of the body language, I mean, I noticed this from Bobby Reid immediately afterwards. He was probably thinking, this team is cack. But I got to say, one thing that I think I don't know about you, Andreas, but the game was over. That's what I've literally put here. It's game over after 7 minutes. That I think is the worst possible thing. How can you do that as a Premier League team that you've played the game? It was like the Wolves one as well. At least against Wolves, we lasted, I think, until 20 minutes, 25 minutes. But 7 minutes into the game, and you know that it's over. There's no way we're going to get a draw against this. Moyes is going to sit back now, play on the counter. They're going to get more goals. And there you go. So what do you think there?
Yeah, it's too crazy that it's just one ball and they're through. I mean, I think as well, Rue said he wants to set us up to be able to, get a result out of every game. This is just not the game to play the highline, man. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. It is just genuinely crazy. And I mean, I think if you're playing the highline, maybe you shouldn't have both Vista going fast there. If they're sitting deep, they were good in the Tottenham game, I want to say, mostly, right? So it's all about how you set up, and how you set up is supposed to get the strength out of our players. And here you are exposing our weakness. For example, with both Vestergaard and Fast, none of them are particularly quick. I'm not the biggest fan of Okoli. He hasn't convinced me yet. But this should have been a game where he needs to start if you're going to try and play this high line, because he's the only one who has a fighting chance of being able to, catch up with these balls and win the tackle before it, becomes 2-0 at 7 minutes. So, yeah, some questionable setup here from Ruud, to be honest. I didn't think this was game over yet. I did think that if we were able to get a goal before the halftime, maybe we could snatch something. But how dull we were in attack for the upcoming 30 minutes really just told the story of how this game was indeed over.
I say 3 players with a total age of 102 in attack is shocking.
That is a fun stat, though, but it is shocking.
Yeah. We'll come to that in a moment. But conscious, I think this is a great comment, guys. I don't think the rest of the back would trust Yannick to step up these days. It's 50-50 whether he falls back or dives in and leaps forward. Then you see, this is a big thing, right? Because if you're playing on the team, and unfortunately, we've all been there, you're playing on a team where someone isn't particularly good and you're worried about it. And in the back of your mind, I mean, that's basically what Danny Ward had an issue with, right? You could tell that the back line were very nervous when Danny Ward was playing there because they're not convinced he's going to save it. So they start making rash decisions and it costs us. And I do wonder if it's the same thing. How can you be confident in that setup when you're seeing, and to be honest with you, I've criticized Vestergaard, but to be honest with you, I keep saying I think Fass is just as bad. He makes just as many clangers. He makes them in different ways. With him, it's fast he switches off. Vestergaard definitely has issues where there's things he can't do much about. Although I do think, like I say, in both of these goals, he could have done better. And Ethan, I think this is a good point as well. Hermanson is also very scared to come out of the goal as a sweeper keeper. First game gap is understandable, but feels like Stolarczyk maybe could have come out to deal with it. And that's possibly true because we did used to play a high liner with Enzo. And in those times, I do remember Mads coming out quite a few times to save the day. And we haven't really seen it. So, I mean, to be fair, I can't remember a time under Ruud where we've really tried to play a high line like this. And to be honest with you, I don't think we should be trying to do that going forwards. I just don't think it works. And I think that given that every team in the Premier League's basically got better players than us, it's not going to work. It could work in a championship because we're going to have a better squad than most teams, but not this one. So, okay, here's the point. Yeah, why a high line with no pace does not work. Again, we're going to have some more exhibits here. So, that's 2 already. But as I say, Everton, they could eat. If they'd have won this game 6-0, I don't think you could argue, right? So here's Mads on the ball. And this was mentioning why he didn't really have such a great game. He wasn't just coming out to collect it. But here he goes to do his trademark, playing the balls through the lines. He tries to do it, but it's a really poor pass straight to Everton midfielder. You can see, who was that pass supposed to go to? Was it supposed to go to Samare? I'm guessing Vardy is standing here and he's trying to reach him and bypass the midfield. But anyway, it means Everton get the ball. They can slot again a simple ball through, and you can see where Vestergaard is. He's out there. And again, because of his pace, that's him out of the game. So what does he do? He tries to rush in and he tries to, basically make up for the mistake of him being out of position, and he bundles Beto over. Now, this was an interesting one. Luke at the time, I remember, said that's a clear penalty. I'm not so sure it was, but I think it's sure either. It's one of those that I think the commentator said, and I agree with it. And he said, if that was given as a penalty, I don't think VAR would have overturned it, which I think is fair. You've definitely seen them given. And to be honest with you, it's probably more like they felt a bit sympathetic towards us. So there you go. You can see the challenge. He definitely does put his leg across, and he is, is maybe not the most blatant foul, but it is definitely a foul.
Yeah,
conscious.
I think with Hermanson, he quite clearly didn't have the best games. I thought for the goals, obviously it wasn't immediately his fault, and as well, I thought some of the shots were really nicely played, so it was just nearly impossible for him to get to it. But I think it was also mixed if he had some rust to knock off. Right, clearly he has been out for pretty much 2 months, pretty much, right. before coming back. So there was definitely some mistakes in him, as you can see with his ability to playing out from the back and so much more. But, at the very least, he got 90 minutes in the legs, right? So hopefully he should be better for the next game, because I still think he needs to start. We know the level he has had for pretty much every single Premier League game throughout the whole campaign. So, I mean, he still has to start, and he'll get back into the swing of things. But this was just a shocker from the defense and an off game from him, I want to call it.
As we say, our highest rated player was Bilal El Khanous with a whopping 4.2. Conscious, interesting discussion here. It's almost like Ruud decided that Pickford and Tarkowski aren't good enough to play accurate long balls, so Better always had the run on us. But it turns out that we are so bad that hoofs upfield were enough, unfortunately. So, Dorco, our defenders can't be everywhere. There will always be a gap. Now, that's 100% true. But I think the point is that you should be setting your team up in such a way so that you can reduce that as much as possible. And Ruud has done things like that in previous games. It's just this game specifically, like you can see here that you're deliberately creating the gaps, right? And look, to be fair, this is because the ball is given away. But this is what I'm saying is that, like, sometimes you might have your own coaching style or your beliefs, but like if your team isn't capable of playing it, you've got to have some serious considerations. It's no coincidence, for example, that Ruben Amorim at Manchester United is struggling so badly at the moment. We know that his system works if he's got the players, but he doesn't have the players at Manchester United, so they get exposed a lot as well. And I do wonder if it's the same for Ruud. And then Steve says, this is going to sound mad, but I would go back five, VK Okoli, JJ, and the two wing backs. I mean, I actually agree with this. I've pointed it out before, more of a kind of 3-4-2-1. But the big thing that your team's got, and this is the point that I've made, is you have a lot of pace then, especially if you add Woyo there as well. And, it can't be any worse. And I've been saying this all season long. This is why the window was so bad, but we're literally getting exposed for a lack of pace there at the back, and it's costing us game after game after game. And how are we supposed to get any results when the midfield and the front line spend most of the time defending too deep because there's no trust in the back line to do their job? Possibly that's true, but I do have to say in this game, it's not so much they're doing that. It was individual mistakes that cost them. And I've got to say that the attackers, I think, also have to take some pelters in this game. Anyone in the front sort of 6 or 7. Neither of the CDMs had a good game. None of the attacking midfielders had the game. The wingers were non-existent. And to be honest with you, there's only one player, in my opinion, that looked like he could be asked. And it's the same in every game. It's Bilal El Khanous, that he looks like he's either playing to get another move or he's playing because he's just got that mentality. As we saw with Bobby Reed there, I think after 2-0, the players literally just gave up. And that's the worst possible thing. I can understand why, because you knew that with those two at the back, it's game over, but still. Anyway, so the warning signs were there, and these problems were everywhere. So that was like one, just simple ball. Here's another time. I think this is Tarkowski on the ball, exploiting the ball in Branthwaite, another good player. And again, just a very simple ball, just plays it into there, massive gaps there. So it's not just on one side, it's on both sides, gets it in. This is Mikalenko, who's pushed up there to support the attack. And look, the obvious ball is he could drop it in here for Beto to make him another one. But actually, he goes for a kind of more cleverer pass into Doucouré. And Doucouré, I thought that was 3-0. It should have been. Great engineered chance from Everton. Very simple. I mean, look, I say great chance, but that was the sophistication of it. It was, let me just put it into the space. No one's going to be there because JJ's pushed up. Again, been caught in behind there. Plays it across, and they should have scored, but they didn't. But it was only a short respite.
Time, right?
So now, so that's it. We've looked at the high ball, but the thing is, that was the high long ball, right? But it turns out, Andreas, that you don't even need to play it high against Leicester. If you really want to, you can just play it low. So here we go again. This is Tarkowski on the ball. He's going to play it into, I think this is Drissage again. Plays it in, little 1-2. It's come to James Garner. Now, again, this is a bit of a concern as well, that James Garner's got the ball, and we're obviously laying off them, but in the mid-block, who's got him? I mean, to be fair, they've played the trigger to move Bilal out of position, right? So that's what they've done to create some space there. But it's not really a box midfield, but you can see we've actually got the man superiority here, but he's got all the time in the world to do this. And that you can already see at the back here, well, you can see Beto's on this bike. So you know what happens. But if you're James Garner, what ball are you going to play here, Andreas?
You're going to play the ball through to Beto, man. You can just look at Vestergaard as well, dude. Keeping him on side. Nice and cleanly making sure it goes as easy as possible for Everton.
Yep, and that's another issue, is that he is playing him on side because he wants to, because I think he has the fear, and this is the problem that he's got to get over. He's either got to commit to this or not do it at all. But he's probably playing that because he thinks, if I'm not goal side of Beto, I've got no chance to keep up with him. But you got no chance anyway. So you have to take the risk of trying to play them offside. And that's the thing. Like, I have to say, many teams that try to play an offside trap is a painful lesson to begin with. I would actually go as far as saying it's one of the hardest things to learn in football. So there you go. James Garner, simple ball through the middle. That's Moses parting the seas there. Easy ball through. And look at that. He gets on it. No chance. I mean, look, Vass has even stopped running now. I mean, I suppose Vestergaard's in front of him, so he's not going to go there. And again, that's 3-0. And this is just why this performance is just so awful, right? So we've conceded 6 seconds into the game. We conceded a second 5 minutes after that. And then we can't even get to half time at 2-0. Maybe at half time, you could be like, do you know what? That's the worst half of football we've played all season, but it's only 2-0. We can go again in a second. And that just extinguishes all hope right at the very end. And there we go. The thing is, Fast can see Vestergaard is playing him on and he's not following her on. I mean, there's so many things that are wrong with it, to be honest with you. Winks is too lightweight. Totally agree. Anonymous again in this game. Didn't do anything. He's really getting exposed, I think, this season. But again, look at that. It's just so that was the previous shot how I showed you that he could have played this ball, but instead he played the one high and wide. So this time round, he's thinking, oh, in this case, I'll just play a more simple ball through the middle.
Let me just play the easy ball this time.
Yeah, and look again there. I mean, look, and could you stick out a foot if you're faster? It just feels like. I mean, look, I've said it all season long. If that's your defense, you're going down. And yes, this is a tough watch. And good pass again. It is a good pass, but we've just made it so easy for them. So easy. Like, at Premier League level, you cannot. I always say this, right? If the opposition scores like a really well-worked goal, like remember that goal that Leif Davis scored against us, that outrageous volley, right? Fair play. If someone scores something like that, hats off, great goal. But this is, no, I'm not taking anything out from Everton, right? They soundly beat us, but Sean gets it right. Charity FC is what we should probably be named to, although not for the fans because it's £61 if you want to watch us against Man United in live on Friday night. Some more danger. That's 3-0. Are you keeping track of all these goals? Very painful to watch this. So now we're getting to the point where so now Vestergaard got taken off after 60 minutes. In my opinion, he should have been hauled at half time.
Should have been 6, yeah.
Yeah, I'll say again as well that in my opinion, after 3-0 at half time, he should have made at least 4 subs, if not all 5. Because the thing is that I feel that it's saying that failure is acceptable. And I think you've got to haul players off, even if, you're in the situation that we are, because you need people competing for places. If they think that there's no sort of threat, then where's the kind of the jeopardy? I do have to say, when Yannick came off, he did look absolutely downtrodden because I think he couldn't blame anyone and he knows it. He knows that he just basically got exposed. But here we go then. So here's another one. What are Everton going to do? Well, even though Coley's on, this is all they need to do. Play a ball over the top. Look at that. This is play a ball like that and it lands here. If he hit that first time, that could be a goal. But fair enough, it's not. And now, look, this is a Coley here. And he's even thinking, there's 3-on-2 here. Where's everyone else? So he's got a tough decision. Does he go for this man or that one? He's trying to, I don't know what he's doing here, to be honest with you. So it's going to get played back in here. And that should be James Garner to make it 4-0. But luckily for us, and I will give him some credit, he's always going to make one guaranteed 1xG goal. Yeah, look at this. More gaps than Rudkin's teeth. Absolutely agree. So Mads makes a save. So again, that could easily have been, if you include that Decore chance, if you include this one, that could have been 5 already. It's not. 4th goal then. So the other thing I've said is that, okay, everyone's saying, okay, play a Coley. And just for its worth, I would play a Coley because I do think he's better than the other defenders that we have. But anyone that thinks that's going to solve the problems, guys, we have no good defensive options. We needed to spend the money between him and Skip and get someone who is actually a properly good goal. Now, this goal, Andreas, I'm already seething at this point. I'm already laughing at how bad we are, right? How much worse can it get? And look, that's the comment I've put here. Clown fiesta. There's not much I can say about this. Just everything goes wrong here. Ball goes to Decore, gives it away, press 2-on-1. We're still fairly well set. We should be able to see this out. So Samare and Okoli are going to try and deal with it, stop the ball from going across. Fast slides in. Fair play. He actually gets the ball. It goes to Okoli, but you've got Okoli and Samare. They're getting in each other's way. So who's going to deal with it? Well, it turns out neither of them are going to deal with it. So Ndiaye is going to get the ball, wins the ball back. Now Fass is like, look, what's he doing? He's just standing there. It basically robs the ball off the defenders. It ends up going to Ndiaye. He gets through. Everyone's just looking. Wolo's probably thinking, what on earth have I done? I should have stayed in Italy. And it's a very simple tap in. And that's the well-deserved 4-0. Krusty the Clown does it again. Vestergaard and Cody have no pace. Absolutely. And yeah, unfortunately, I would kind of agree with this. Cody and Fast have no football IQ because I don't know. Look, Coley's been out of the team for a while, but I think his positioning is poor. And yeah, Dorco, embarrassing. You're being kind to say that. It is just an awful. I mean, look at. I don't know. Do you want to look at it again? We are going to look at it again. It's just how can you be Because here's the thing, Andreas. Any of these goals, I would be embarrassed to concede it at my level of football. And just, I'm a very poor footballer, right? I do like playing because I love the game. I love playing it, but I'm getting on these days. I play with people that are 10 or 15 years younger than me. It can be tough at times, right? But even me, I would be embarrassed with things like this, right? There's absolutely no excuse here, especially when, like, in this case, you've got the ball just like, this is like, what are you doing? There's all just three of them there. Just,
man.
What are you trying to do?
Horrible.
Like, you got to play
ping
fast.
pong.
And that is a Coley there, because he's the one that loses the ball there. You just got to put his foot through it and just take out fast if you have to. So they end up losing the ball. Look at that. Oh, embarrassing. 4 people around. They've somehow lost the ball. And then, fair play, Everton star man puts it in. He didn't have to do it. And look, here are some of the defensive stats, and these are awful. So
how is Caleb Coley's even worse than Vestergaard's, man? Oh, we are so done.
Well, with the rating, that's hilarious, isn't it? Right? Although I would kind of disagree with that. Well, I don't know. They were, like I said, they're all just bad. So Yannick didn't win a single ground duel the entire game. Wout won 1. Caleb won 1, but lost 2. Aerial duels, Wout didn't win anything. Yannick, he won 1, to be fair. I don't know when that was. I can't remember it. Lost possession a lot. Nothing from a Coley. Now, compare this to Everton. Because here's the thing about Everton. These two, they're solid, right? Is James Tarkowski the best centre-back in the league? No, he's not. But he's a very professional, very solid, consistent. You can rely on him. And notice that. 3 out of 3 aerial duels won. Did the basics. Won the headers. Won the ground duels. Jared Branthwaite, very strong game. Won a lot of ground duels. Won aerial duels. Very good with the passing. Obviously, he made some of those key passes. And that's the thing, right? Even with Sean Dyche, and we have some of the Everton fans in here, Daniel O'Connor. But the thing is I feel that even with Dyche, you would have still stayed up. It probably would have been a tougher watch than what it is right now under Moyes. But the thing is that unlike Leicester, you guys actually have good defenders. And they will keep you up. And you've got an excellent goalkeeper, right? I don't think Pickford's the greatest with his feet. We all know that. But at the end of the day, he does do it. And yeah, Conscious, I agree that Sofa Score ratings are kind of useless, but I just use it more for these stats. I think that's why we do the match ratings ourselves, right? Post-match to do it. If in doubt, kick Wout out. I like that one. That's probably something we should do. And I've got to say, coming into this season, Vestergaard, I was more likely to give him a chance, but I always think that Fast is the one that you can't have because he will make a mistake. I just never really see him have a game where he hasn't made at least one mistake in the game. So I'll keep saying this all season, but look at this. These are the bottom 3 teams in the league. And what's the one thing that they all share? Southampton have conceded 54 goals. We're trying to catch them with our 53. Ipswich are trying to catch us with their 49 conceded. You can see that in terms of the expected goals. But the crazy thing is with Southampton is they are actually outperforming by 10. So they actually should have conceded 64. So that's insane. That not only do they have the worst defense, but it should be shockingly much worse. Us, actually, it's about the same. Ipswich are getting away with it. So I think they've got to watch out because that implies to me that they're going to get probably stuffed at some point. And do you remember earlier in the season under Steve Cooper, we weren't getting smashed. But for me, it was always just a moment of time. And actually, we did get smashed in that cup game, didn't we, against Man United? Because the stats showed that we were getting away with it. And I think the big problem is then if you look at the next teams down, right, their defenses are bad, but comparatively, they're 10 goals better than us, right? Even Wolves now, right? So to be fair, Wolves, they've also conceded a lot. They've conceded 52. But look at that. They should only have conceded 42. So they're actually unlucky. And the thing is, they've basically signed 2 centre-backs and a CDM this window because they knew that they shouldn't be conceding that many goals, but it's the level of player that they had, they did it. I think the problem with us is that we are conceding a lot of goals, but it's not just a fact of saying, okay, maybe if you replace the players, it would just improve everything. I think it would improve a lot, but it does also sort of imply that we, it could be a structural and systematic issue. That's a big worry for us. So I'm just going to cover some other players. Christensen, I'm just going to give him some kind of props, although I do also think he had a bad game, but there were some things he did which were good. So the one thing I want to say is that actually out of everyone in the team this season, 59 tackles he's made. So he's actually leading that quite considerably by anyone else. You can notice that, look, compare it to Wout Faes, he's made 30 more challenges than him. James Justin's actually up there. Facundo Buonanotte, even though he's been dropped by Rude, you can see he was doing the dirty side of the game well to some degree. You see why we miss Ndidi there. So here are our chances. And let's get this right. We did not deserve anything from this game. We didn't make a big chance. Here were some of the few things we had. This one came off a corner at 2-0. I actually think here, this is a good chance. And if Justin didn't fluff his lines, he should at minimum have tested the keeper. Look, there's a big gap there. But look, look at his shooting angle there. The less said about that, the better perhaps. But again, that's why I'm not Personally, I'm not convinced with this using a right back as the auxiliary winger. They've got to be someone, in my opinion, who started their career as a winger and moves back to fullback like Dani Alves, not someone who started their career as a right back and then pushed forward. It's never going to work as well. But to be fair, then it comes to Christensen. And I actually thought here, this was a solid chance. He's hit that hard, but he's gone high and wide. But there was the goal
far off, though. Not
far off, but, you know, Premier League, we need things. And to be fair, one of the few times, this was actually when Mavadidi came on, he got to the byline here, Christensen. He puts a ball into Bobby Reid. Bobby Reid, fair play. He lays it off to Daka. Daka goes in with the shot. But it's too easy. Just very tame effort. And was that the best Leicester have got? Yes, that was the best we had all game long. So it was crap. To point it out, though, I will say one thing about the fullbacks is that, like, you know, well, actually, there's good and bad, right? So JJ, he actually won all of his aerial duels. So he wasn't getting exploited so much down that side, right? But he lost all of the ground duels, which is extremely poor. So something he's got to work on there. Victor, he actually, compared to the other ones, he won a lot of ground duels. One more than half was involved in a lot of them. He won one aerial one. I don't know. They were okay. But at the end of the day, this is the thing, right? Is that, you know, our back four is just not good enough. It's as simple as that. So that was it. That was the stats. As I say, absolutely dominated start to finish, as we've seen there. And I'll give you my match thoughts. So for me, one of the worst performances I've seen from Leicester. I genuinely believe that, because a goal after 8 seconds, then a goal on the brink of half time, and a goal right at the end of the game. You can't even see it out to try and get a clean sheet in the second half for morale. No, we were just cackle round. Everton didn't have to do anything special to beat us. A simple long ball over the top. I'm not saying that they couldn't have done something special. Who knows? I've got a feeling that, like, to go conscious here, Moyes was quite progressive at Everton the first time round. They were basically the best of the rest and played pretty good football. Yeah, and they're a team that in the end had people like Tim Cahill, Marouane Fellaini, Pienaar, I remember. Who else did they have? They had some good players. Leighton Baines, very solid team. They played good football and they pretty much finished 5th pretty consistently, in some seasons even 4th. They were a good team. They will do well with him. I'm going to say this, Andreas, as simple as this. We cannot play a high line with Yannick Vestergaard.
Yep.
Brendan Rodgers figured it out 3 years ago. It is suicide. So I'm saying playing this way, look, to be fair, we should not have conceded after 6 seconds. As a manager, there's not that much you can really do about that, right? But they were going to score. You just can't play that system against it. For him, Vestergaard, he's got to look at it. Like I say, he doesn't have trust in himself. You've either got to commit to the high line and just accept that sometimes the player's going to get in behind, but you know that they're offside, right? Or you don't play it. And actually, he's doing the worst possible thing, which at times he was playing players onside when he's not got the pace to recover. So he's not good enough to do it from 2 sort of ways. If you want to look back at it, look at Arrigo Sacchi's Milan team in the 90s. He was one of the first people that really brought the offside trap in. And it was funny, their sort of first 10 games, they really struggled. Players like Ruud Gullit and Frank Rijkaard, they said this guy's either a genius or an idiot, but they decided to give him some faith, and they ended up winning the Champions League, I think, 3 times in 4 seasons. Brilliant team. And he did help them get there.
Yeah.
Andreas, all of our defenders are awful. They're all awful. Every single one. There's no magical solution. Actually, do you know what? If he wasn't injured, I would try Ben Nelson. Do you know what? Even if he's on a Zimmer frame, I might give him a chance, because this lot, they ain't having it. I would play Okoli because he might get better, but they were all poor. Go on. I know you want to.
I agree. I think Okoli, he's someone we've invested in. I'd like to see him as one of them. I think the other one, in my opinion, it does kind of have to be Vestergaard, because whereas I think about Fars and Cody offer nothing, Vestergaard is a bit worse in terms of the pace than those two, but he is 5 times better on the ball. But you cannot play a high line with him. Like the thing, and that's the only reason I'm saying that Vestergaard should still start, because he has a not redeemable strength, but a strength to him. And other than that, the pace, it's gotten worse than it has been before as well. He's winning less of the 50-50s recently. The high line obviously makes him look like a donkey or Bambi on ice, or whatever you want to call it. It is shocking. Luckily for them, we're playing Manchester United in the FA Cup. Who knows what happens there? I don't really care if we progress or not. I just don't want us to see us get smashed. But that means 2 weeks' time, we'll play again in the league. I think Woyu has to get a start. And luckily and hopefully, Ndidi is back. They desperately need Ndidi, because he has been cleaning up so many of their mistakes and been that extra man. And he, especially in the first few games of Ruud, when they stepped up, he was willing to cover the space in behind them and make sure there wasn't acres of room. I think, as you say, Winks has been exposed in the Premier League. So rarely do we see him offer anything good. No, and I don't think it's dangerous in the glass, and I think you're taking away from my analysis there, because as I'm sitting here saying that we have 4 defenders who are shit in terms of centre backs, I'm simply saying that one of them, at the very least, has one quality that can add something to a game. I don't see the quality that Fast has that will offer anything to a game. I don't see the quality Connor Cody has that will offer anything to a game. But I see the on-the-ball passing that Vestergaard has and will continue to add something to a game. Is he shit at many other things defensively? Yes. But you cannot sit here and say I'm being Denmark biased just because I'm able to recognize that he's good on the ball. But it's a simple fact of the matter is we have people who are shit at everything in defense. And then this guy has a strength at the very least. And it's not redeemable strength because especially when you're playing a high line, you're getting exposed. But it's something that can add something positive to a team and not just be shy. Whereas I think someone like Connor Cody, when he was in the team, except for that one goal line clearance, was irredeemably shit.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up some comments here. Daniel, the Everton fan, should you be playing a high line at all? Surely counter-attack is your best bet regardless. Unfortunately, when your attacking 3 has a combined age of 102, you're not going to offer much pace. And at Premier League level, you're going to have plenty of fast defenders that can get back and do that. Ethan, do you see Ruud fixing this? No. The only way to fix this, honestly, like I said, is we need to spend like 50 million in the window. We said it at the transfer show right at the start. We said we can't go cheap. You got to buy like 2 or 3 quality players. Otherwise, you got no chance at all. So we'll get some more good comments out here. I'm not sure if pointless vertical passes to Vardy who gets clattered and we win a free kick on the halfway line justifies Yannick Flores. I mean, that's fair. I do think because as kind of Sean's done, we're a possession base, but we're not PL level. That's basically what it is, right? We're trying to play the same sort of football that we played last year, but it's not going to work because the players are just all better than us. So essentially you're playing, with a team that isn't particularly good at doing that style, at playing it. So we're not good at making those incisive passes. We don't have the quality to cut through with that cute football, or it happens too rarely. And the vulnerability that we have in exchange is, big time poor. Anil, let's assume that our front line stops spending as much time defending. Do you think we'd start scoring more goals, or we end up conceding even more than we are now? See, that's a tough question. The thing is that basically the answer is that I feel the way that for me, I said this at the start of the season, the way that we could have stayed up is we should have just played 4-2-3-1 and we should have just had a front 3 that was fast and could hit people on transition. So if ignoring injuries, I thought we might do something like Patson Daka, Fatawu, Steffi Mavadidi, and the rest of the team pretty much defend. Forest do something similar. I think it's a bit unfair to say that's all they do because they do more than that, but that's pretty much how their team works. But Steve Cooper didn't want to do it. And now with this particular lineup that Ruud's gone for, he's trying to go more for these intricate balls, but Reed's not got pace. Jordan Ayew's not got pace. Vardy's not got pace. Even El Canus, who is our best player, doesn't really have pace. So we can't really play that way. So they're kind of forced this way. Like I say, our kind of style is trying to rely upon dominating the ball, playing up in the other team's half, and then playing the intricate passes and finding some space that way. And it's just not working. So we got to figure something out. People have suggested the back 5 stroke back 3 of the 3-4-2-1. I don't think it can be worse than what we're saying. As you said, we don't have fast wingers that can press effectively. Definitely not. We need fast defenders physically and mentally. No point having fast morons or slow geniuses. You and the channel should ban comparisons to last year. The championship is so awful. It's just not relevant. Well, that's what we've definitely found out the hard way this time round, which we thought could happen. But it is true that, there's no point saying that because you're playing in such a teams that will just completely, sit back. So I put this as my last point. Sean Dyche could keep up in the Premier League because he made his teams hard to beat. In this match, Everton had Branthwaite and Tarkowski, who are levels above what we have, absolute levels. They can actually defend. So coming through to the results, here's what happened. And a big one was right here at the end. The Wolves beat Aston Villa. And so, unfortunately, it means that we're back in the relegation zone. So 14 games to go. We're 2 points from safety. Realistically, with the goal difference, because we're 10 worse than Wolves, we're 3 points from safety. I suppose the one good thing, though, is that we are playing Wolves. So technically, we still have it in our own hands to get out of it. But let's get real. It's not happening, really. And yes, so that's my kind of comment on that. And then to make you feel better, everyone's like, okay, well, what about the transfer window? But unfortunately, this is an artist rendition of the transfer window with our Rudconomics and the King Power Stadium on fire. I think this just sums it up. Here are the number of winter signings from the bottom 4. Wolves signed 4 players. Leicester signed 1. Ipswich signed 5. And even Southampton, who look like they're dead and buried, signed 5.
Not
There you
even,
go.
and the thing is, it isn't even a McKee signing, right? It's like a 30 million or 20 million pound player that immediately will fix, tie up our defense or fix our attack, right? It's Woyohu. I mean, I'm optimistic for Woyohu. I think he'll say, I hope soon that he'll get a starting 11 spot, because I think with how James Justin has played, he deserves the chance. But doesn't look like he's going to revolutionize the defense, right?
Yeah, some interesting comments here. So Andy's saying set up like Palace 3 at the back and play 2 10s. Yeah, that's what I'm kind of suggesting with a 3-4-2-1, because then maybe we could get the best out of some of our players. I still think we'd lose most games though. Brookline, it's painful to admit that the only manager in recent times that has changed tactics based on personnel is Brendan Rodgers. He is looking better in the rearview mirror. Well, I'll say a few things about Brendan Rodgers. He realised that Vestergaard wouldn't make it in the Premier League. He did also say that the team needed to have a refresh and needed to be cleared out and stay
That
again.
is kind of crazy to say. He said that. I mean, obviously Vestergaard didn't play under him, but he was the one who spent years talking to Vestergaard about getting into the club. It's a Brendan signing, getting Vestergaard in. Brendan was the key figure behind bringing him in.
I'm not sure that's true. People say that, but I've never found proof of that. I mean, the one thing I know,
in the Athletic as well, he was a huge influence in getting him in, like throughout multiple periods, having had contacts, showing interest at the very least.
Perhaps, but he did also tell him towards the end that his career at Leicester was over and that he should leave. And there was that time where he didn't go on loan. So, maybe he did, but I'm saying is he did realise the mistake. And you've got to also remember he went to that 3-5-2 of Kelechi and Nacho and Vardy, and he got things around. Some people are saying, no, Sean, changing the formation is moving shit around. We needed quality and we got skipped for 20 million. Absolutely. Steve says, never meant any disrespect, Andreas. Love you, dude. There you go.
Steve.
He is definitely wearing the Danish tinted glasses, though.
I'm even wearing like a Danish hoodie, like from the Danish national team. So that doesn't really help, right, in terms of the image.
Do we make teams work hard to break us down? Not today, we didn't. And I think another really terrible game for this was Brentford game, where they just played like in 2 touches. They were in 1-on-1. Johan Wisser on our goal. Absolutely crazy. Or are we all in the ground on fire with the previous picture? Perhaps we are. That's what it feels like. We'll see what the protest is like this way. The club made one day ago now keep quiet type signings. Exactly. Rob Tanner said that Brendan was the reason why he came. Okay, interesting. Like I said, he's definitely also tried to get rid of him. What do you think the solution to our misery would be? I mean, let's be honest. I think that's the reason why the board didn't sign anyone. They realized that it's over and they're going to move, try it next season, but it's going to be tough next season as well. And what else? Yeah, he also said that it came out of the scouting department. We're not happy with Brendan for the players he brought in. Well, yeah, definitely. Because some of them, like Ryan Bertrand, stunk the place out, absolutely, which was done through his son's agent, I believe, which was a problem. So, Andreas, just to make you feel better, go on.
I will say one admission I've even started making in terms of how the situation is looking is I've started thinking about, the positives about going down to the championship. Obviously, that's all that lost revenue, but Ben Nelson will likely get his time. Will Alves should be able to, at the very least, become a settled squad player, right? And offer huge, make a difference. Maybe Monk will get some minutes as well. Jake Evans, Sammy Braybrook could turn out to be great as well. So many of the young players could maybe get a look in that, and we'll have this comfortable, homey feeling around the squad all of a sudden. And yeah, I mean, when I've started grasping for those straws, the situation is bleak, because I don't start thinking about that before it's realistically impossible to make it out. It isn't yet. There's still a chance, but I think I'm now for the first time really there's a likelier chance that we get relegated than we stay up.
Oh man, that's depressing when even you're saying that.
I
mean, look, it's sad to say you might be looking forward to going down. The problem is those young players last time round, very few of them everyone thought Will Alves would be playing. He didn't.
In the end, because we brought a lot of players in, and I don't think that would be the same case here. So I think we'd be more forced to do that. Forced to have a look at what we have in the squad, right? And I think that's why they get more of a look in, because I think more players would want a chance out there. It's less of a chance to just instantly bounce back. And then obviously a lot depends on what happens in the manager situation, right?
Yeah, I got a feeling they'll change the manager. Taking a look at our fixtures then, I mean, there's quite a tough run coming up here. Well, I mean, all the games are tough, I suppose. In the Cup away to Man United on Friday at 8 o'clock. Join us for the watch along with that one. Then we've got 12:30 kickoff against Arsenal. They're in rampant form after beating Man City 5-1. They'll be confident. Brentford, that's also weirdly on Friday at 8 o'clock. A lot of Friday 8 o'clock games coming up. I'm not a fan of that, I've got to say. Yeah. And I think Brentford, Thomas Frank will be looking at this game and laughing. The last time they beat us 4-0 when we didn't have a manager, they even interviewed him afterwards. 4-1.
We scored the first goal. Remember that?
Oh my God, we did as well, didn't we?
Yeah, I think the way I want to phrase these next 4 games, it's very simple. FA Cup, don't care. Just don't get smashed 10-0 and I'll be happy. Arsenal game, don't care. Maybe we could, I don't care if we lose 3-0 or whatever. Just try and not embarrass yourselves again. Brentford game and West Ham game, we have to get something out of one of these 2 games, in my opinion. And I don't know if a point will be enough. It all depends on the situation. But in my eyes, we need to get something from one of those games. But I do doubt it. But we have to. We have to get something.
I don't think we get anything against Brentford.
I don't think so either, but we have to. That's the thing.
The reason I say that is Thomas Frank, after the game goes, I didn't expect the game to be that easy. He literally said that. That's so insulting when you're saying...
love Thomas Frank, man.
He basically just said, I didn't expect this team to be as crap as this. It was like taking candy from a baby.
We did also have Ben Dawson in charge, right? There is some slack to be cut there as well in terms of that game. That was very much a write-off game. And remember, Brentford, they are 10 times worse away from home. They have started to pick up their away form recently and been able to get points on the road, especially against Crystal Palace. But they aren't as strong as they were when we came in without a manager to a team that hadn't lost at home in their 8 home games up until that point of the season. So I think we'll put in a better showing. I very much rate Brentford. Obviously, right? It's a Denmark club, right? Danish coach, a lot of Danish players that I certainly rate. Mikkel Damsgaard is looking incredible for them. Even when they're failing to score in their games, he's still looking really, really good.
I love what Conchis says that, he knows the pain of being in the Championship every season and not making it. There are a few times as well that coming into January, we were either in the lead or top 2, and we just fluffed it. Very annoying. And then we've got West Ham. That will be a more interesting one. They look better under Potter, but Potter, I think, doesn't play as direct. He might try and play the cuter football, which might give us a chance, might being the key word. But I mean, the big thing is his confidence is absolutely demoralized on the floor. So that's it, really, Andreas. I can't believe we spent 51 minutes talking about what was easily in my...
Yeah, we could have spent 51 minutes less, man. Horrible.
Was that the worst performance you've seen for Leicester, or would it have been even worse?
There have been ones that have felt worse, to be honest. I mean, I in particular remember the times when it was the Champions League, right? That Tottenham game at home, where we just needed to win to get top 4. And I think a draw would have actually turned out to be enough, depending on the Chelsea result as well.
Yeah.
That was brutal. Luckily, I don't know if I want to say luckily, I turned off the game where we lost 3-2 to Tottenham and we were off 2-1 up because I thought the game was over with 2 minutes to go and my mom was asking me to help her out with something. So I remember closing the game, and when I checked, I was like, what happened? But no, I think there have been many depressing results my time, even in my shorter time, I want to say, as a Leicester fan, right? This one, though, I don't know if I want to say it's worse. I'm trying to shake it off as well as possible, but it's very disappointing. Very, very disappointing. I think in terms of the levels shown, maybe yes. But how it's made me feel, I've had worse losses that has made me feel worse, but this was just one of the worst games I've seen us play in terms of football.
Yeah, like I say, it's just because it's just so basic, you can get smashed sometimes and it being depressing, but there you go. I just want to bring this up. Do you think the lack of action in the transfer window is saving money for a potential manager change and saving the bounce until after the Arsenal game?
No.
To be honest with you, Daniel, we have no idea. I mean, this is the big issue with the Leicester fans right now is our board. What are they doing? There's no communication. There's nothing that makes sense. So a lot of us earlier in the season, we did not like Steve Cooper. We thought he wasn't playing the right people. Like he wasn't playing for Tau and Mabadidi at the same time, wasn't playing Ricardo Pereira. So he got sacked and we were happy with that. And one reason we were happy with that is, well, okay, they've realized they've made a mistake. They're going to hire a new manager and they're going to support this manager in January. And that might give us a chance. What support has that new manager got? He's got no support. So in that case, why did we even make that change? Because to me, spending nothing in the window just makes me assume that no, if we go down, we go down. We're fine with it. So in that case, I don't know. There's nothing that makes sense. It is really worrying. What does it mean? I don't think they have a Scooby. We said this in the transfer deadline show yesterday or Monday, whenever it was, and we just basically said, look, it just feels like the team is either the board has either given up, or perhaps more likely we've been caught up by smarter teams that have better people in. They looked at what Leicester did. They realized you needed to be innovative as well, but they've beaten us. All those clever things that we used to do, like having clever analytics that realized that N'Golo Kante was making a ridiculously absurd amount of tackles. So the physicality wasn't an issue that people thought it was. Yada, yada, yada. Now other teams know this. They're bigger, they're better. They find the players before we do. We end up spending too much on Guff, Oliver Skip. And to be honest with you, we use him as a scapegoat. I mean, he might well be good in the future, but it's just a signing. Why make that signing? Again, another one that didn't make sense. I'm getting angry here. So everyone at Blue Tinted Glasses, thank you so much for joining us. Please do like this stream if you enjoyed it. Comment below as to, do you think we have any chance whatsoever of staying up? My spoilers, no, I don't. Thank you for being here. Yeah,
1% faith or 1% chance, 99% faith. That's the saying.
Better
it can still happen.
zero.
We can still stay up, right? We won against Tottenham last week. This was just a shocker, though, and it's definitely a gut punch.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Make sure to hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already to Blue Tinted Glasses. Join us tomorrow for Fox's Den, hosted by Locks. Take care. Thank you, Andreas, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Well, respect.